We have a very interesting guest joining our open talk today. This is the director of our oldest Opera and Ballet Theater, Kalieva. The theater industry has faced difficult times, but despite this, artists found the way to come up with exciting and unusual online solutions for their projects. But let us hear it from Kalieva. Hello, Aya. Hello, Polina. I remember well that we've met a couple of days before the lockdown was announced, during an event, and casually talked about what could happen, not fully realizing the scale of a situation at that moment. And 3 days after that, the whole world just turned upside down. When you realized that for the first time in the entire history the theater will be closed and you have no control over it, what were your thoughts that day? Indeed, we just had a show and we had grandiose plans, everything was ready. The current repertoire has not been scheduled for 1 year, but for 3 years in advance. All projects have been launched and suddenly we were told that we need to shut down. And just like that, all our work, all our activities are suspended and we need to work remotely. The first thought was, what about our audience? It was a shock, because what is a theater? It is a live performance. And when we were told, that's it, you can no longer meet with your audience, the first question was, what should we do now? Theater is an interaction with its audience. There is no theater without spectators. Therefore, the first thing on our mind was, how do we build this interaction with our dear and wonderful spectators? We began searching for new formats of work. As a result, we have more than 250 broadcasts. We even took the 3rd place among the CIS countries in the rating of online broadcasts, in terms of the variety of repertoire and the number of views in the CIS countries. The rating is led by the Bolshoi Theater of Russia and Belarus. We are the 3rd in the rating. The 3rd place among CIS countries and right after the Bolshoi. Impressive. Yes, this is the first time we are facing such stressful situation. To be honest, our team was slacking for the first 10 days of the lockdown. It was like an unplanned vacation. But after a certain period, people realized the seriousness of the situation. The director of the ballet was the first to address the issue, said the dancers need access to the stage, they need practice. Otherwise, they risk to get out of their shape. Then came out the vocalists. They called, constantly asking what can be done, fearing they will get out of their shape as well. Everything stopped at the peak, you know. Their usual rest is 30 days, but after continuous work, daily practice, when you worked in such rhythm and then 10 days of nothing, it really had an effect. The artists began getting sick, their bodies demanded activity and there was none. It was difficult, but then our artists didn't panic.
Сохраняли свою форму наши артисты и не впадали, грубо говоря, в панику.
Keeping shape is important. It takes practice and time. What words did you use when talking to them? They were getting out of their shape, but we kept saying that it was temporary, that it will pass. But 1 month had passed and we still couldn't return to work. After another month and a half, there was a certain agitation yet again. We are trying to find the right words when speaking to artists. Not everyone returned to work yet. People are struggling with adapting to this difficult situation, and we understand we can't force our artists to work. But some managed to adapt quickly, especially younger part of our team. They are creative and they offered different online formats to work with. You might know, we had some concerts from home session.
И предложили сразу же очень много новых форм работы, и, как вы знаете, у нас прошли концерты из дома. Потом мы проводили один день из жизни театра.
Another one was one day in the life of the theater project Gatop Live. It was very interesting. We showed the way we come to work in small groups, how we work our schedule during these difficult times. In addition to the broadcasts, we held masterclasses and nighttime streams. They just sat in front of the computer and for 1 hour straight played songs requested by the audience. Managing and working with artistic team who are probably less adaptable in a sense they can't just suddenly start working as taxi drivers or in pizza delivery. Have you ever found yourself acting as a psychologist? Yes, actors are people of delicate constitution. Each needs an individual approach. It is impossible to force them to work and expect a full commitment. We understand that we have to create safe conditions for them. Our ballet dancers, for instance, came to their first rehearsals fully geared, wearing masks and gloves. It was difficult for them, but they made it through. During the entire lockdown period, our artistic director Guljan Tutkibayeva conducted masterclasses online or in small groups on stage. She would come up with a routine to ensure optimal exercise to enable them to breathe with their masks on. The actors and vocalists were also wearing masks during the breaks and when walking in the building. But they need to take them off when they warm up and sing. And things like that happen, you know, they just warmed up and we'd say, it's time, we need to ventilate the room, disinfect. And they would say, we just got our cords warmed up and you are already asking us to leave. It was challenging, but we are adapting, looking for new formats of work. At the moment, we've got almost everyone back in the theater, even the choir. But during the lockdown, we couldn't ask them to come to work. We were unable to provide a safe environment at the time. Just imagine a large group of people singing. The soloists could practice one singer or sometimes two, no problem. But with the choir, it was completely different and impossible to do.
Коллектив он будет петь, в любом случае это коллективное пение. Если солисты могут оперы по одному в классе, по два быть, то у артистов хора это невозможно было.
Вот одно из таких оригинальных, я считаю, необычных, да, что вы в год 175-летия Абая, именем которого назван театр.
This year is 175 years since the birth of Abai, a person the theatre is named after. I know that you've initiated a contest for non-professional singers. People said this competition was unusual. I had a chance to speak to the winners and participants who ranged from 6 to 70 years old. How did you come up with such an idea?
Вот как это пришла идея?
Дело в том, что мы же в этом году действительно наметили очень большую, скажем, масштабную программу.
We have planned a whole program and a large festival dedicated to Abai's 175th anniversary. And this contest was one of the parts of the festival, but we initially planned to invite professionals to compete with participation of Turksoy, International Organization of Turkic Culture members. Due to the pandemic, we couldn't host this event. So we came up with an idea to expand the event across whole country. We decided to involve non-professional performers. Those are not opera singers. They are not representing philharmonic societies. Those are talented amateurs with wonderful voices and desire to perform. Our aim was to popularize Kazakh music through the legacy of Abai and, of course, identify our wonderful, talented performers. I'd like to say that the contest was successful. There were many participants from all over Kazakhstan. We've got winners as young as 6 years old. We had a boy from Almaty. Our opera singers liked him very much. He has a great potential.
Исполнителям, вообще нашим оперным певцам, что они сказали, это будет будущее Казахстана.
He is very talented indeed. I spoke to his mother. There were many talented participants, but the contest was based on online voting from the viewers and supporters. You know, supporters make a big impact. Therefore, our creative team decided to encourage those who were not included in the list of laureates chosen by the audience and awarded in this contest. 40 out of 72 participants received additional certificates of recognition and honorary awards from our theatre in certain nominations. We wanted to invite the most talented performers to Almaty. Yes, that was an important promise. We made a promise. As you know, we hold our concerts in the ARTE gallery, and we want to invite teams that won the contest and the vocalists who took first place. Maybe even those who got second and third places. We'll be happy to have them perform pieces of their choice and maybe pieces we prepare together with them during their visit. Because for people outside of the theater field, it is important to go on stage with professionals, at least for themselves. Do you have any other ideas? We see that schools might continue operating online. It's unclear whether theaters will open again. Do you have some plans for online work? Of course we do, but for us this is not specifically a traditional form of work. The only thing that we are currently working on is our season ticket system for school children. We have introduced season tickets and we conduct a lecture before each performance. We would like to leave this system in place and change it to the online format so that once a month children could visit our online lecture, watch the opera. So we've got that. We don't want to lose our school audience, which is very dear to us. Besides, we have other projects. Recently we took part in a joint educational project with the school held by the Elena Obraztsova's Foundation in Moscow. A very interesting project.
В Москве проводила фонд Елены Образцовой. Очень интересный проект. Вот мы подсоединились и делаем сейчас.
We joined it and now are working in collaboration. We hold master classes, give lectures. I took part in it myself, gave a lecture on how we conduct theater activities in Kazakhstan at the moment. There are already so many various joint projects. We have become the members of many associations, both European and Russian. At the moment, we are in the process of joining the Chinese Silk Road Association. Communication with colleagues and participation in interesting projects is very important to us. What about the colleagues overseas? How do they survive? You know, this lockdown has united us so much, both with our European and Kazakhstani colleagues. To a great extent, we understand the problems and all the troubles of our post-Soviet space. We are members of the Association of Musical Theatres of Russia. Thanks to our close contacts, we were the first to find out about the lockdown situation. They were the first to experience it, to close the theatre, and then we followed in their footsteps. We understood how they experienced it and all their developments, and realized how wonderful are our directors sharing information in our group chat. The first algorithm they developed was for operations during the lockdown period and how to go back to work after lockdown is lifted. And they have such an interesting structure. Each republic has its own Minister of Culture, and the policies are different, so you get to learn from the experience of that one and this one and the third one. Very interesting indeed, and not that scary anymore. Yes, everyone has their own forms of activity. I want to say that our government has supported large theatres very well. In our theatre, for instance, the government has fully compensated 15% of total losses. In this respect, we had an example of what to do. The state has also allocated zero-interest loans to some theatres, which they will, according to terms of their agreement, repay gradually after they return to operation. Every 2 weeks we have online meetings of all directors of this association. We are always in touch. We are not abandoned.
Работать, постепенно возмещать сумму потерь. Каждые 2 недели проводится онлайн-встреча всех директоров этой ассоциации. То есть мы постоянно находимся...
The chairman of this association, Georgi Sarkyan, is so experienced, so detail-oriented professional. He goes over the smallest issue, like what would be more convenient, do we open now or let's make a seating arrangement. Everyone then starts sharing ideas in our group chat very generously. People share their work, their ideas from Buryatia, Yakutsk, Perm. We also have members from Uzbekistan and Belarus, among others. I am very grateful to members of association for their inputs.
Своим коллегам, что они настолько... Там из Узбекистана, из Белоруссии коллеги.
There's really no point of being greedy in this situation. On one hand, we are seemingly in a competitive environment, but right now the entire theatre community needs to survive. This is not the issue of one theatre, this is a worldwide matter. Not even an issue, it's a problem that needs to be resolved. We need to find ways to survive. And now we see these ways of survival, and we hope that sooner or later all methods of working in such conditions will be in place. Moreover, our Minister of Culture and Sports has joined the process of developing of an algorithm for gradual exit into the post-lockdown period. Each of our organizations has 4 stages action plans. I even saw 8 stages in some. In our theatre, we agreed on 4. We have everything clearly spelled out, and each department has 4 stages of activities. We've defined when and who lives to work remotely. Everyone understands whether we follow Plan B or Plan A. There are no further discussions which departments close or go to the temporary standby mode. We have already discussed everything with everyone. There's an understanding and there are no disagreements. And for those who continue to work in maintenance and in administration, we have clear protocols. The algorithm. Plus, the accounting department constantly is working on modifying and correcting our development plan. Since we basically have no revenues, and if we do start making sales, we need to understand what our profit will be, whether it's 15, 7.5, 3.5 or 0%. The chessboard sitting arrangement is not ideal. We are already working at a loss. We are considered unprofitable. The ticket sales are not covering our costs of production. To tell you the truth, current ticket prices of 500 to 600 and 1500 tenge cover about 1% of the cost, maybe 2%. The minimal price for the ticket with our costs should be about 15,000 tenge, and we've got 1500. I see. Our prices are the lowest in the CIS, affordable to our audience. Moscow theaters are very expensive. So we instruct our accounting department to make calculations based on new regimen, chess-like sitting arrangement, 2 meters distance between the spectators, which makes it 5 square meters per person. We basically have half-empty hall, but we must work with these losses. Now we seem to find certain solutions and ask the state to support us in these difficult times, to allocate additional funds for us to buy professional disinfecting equipment to be placed at the entrance. They are very expensive, and we need at least 2. Some theaters in Russia have electronic thermal imagers, which measure temperature and beep if the person has a fever. Theaters in Russia are advanced in that way, having such equipment.
Болен ты, не болен. Вот такие у нас продвинутые в России есть театры, которые уже установили полностью себе такое оборудование. Ну что ж, мы тоже
потихонечку...
Bit by bit, you have created a vision of the theatre of the future, the post-lockdown theatre. But I also think that the theatre will remain a theatre. It will not vanish. Theatres have existed for so many years, centuries, and they will go on. And I know that the actors will perform even for a single spectator. That's true. The love and appreciation of the audience is the most important thing. Theatre cannot live without spectators. And they do love. You see what they are writing to you. This is supporting us and gives the incentive to work. These applauses you got after each project. Having these feedbacks is very important to our artists. Nothing else matters. They say, let our audience be with us, and we'll continue to work for the benefit of our society. Thank you very much for taking the time, for not giving up, for managing to bring up the spirits of your audience and your team. Thank you very much, Aya, for this great interview. Thank you. Goodbye.